and welcome to the Fashion and Retail Organization YouTube at Purdue University. I want to start off by saying I am not wearing a mask right now, but I am the only one in this classroom. There's literally no one else here, and it's obviously going to be a lot harder to hear me through a mask, and I will be disinfecting the table that I am at. It's been disinfected before I was here, and it's going to be disinfected once I leave. So just a side note, that's why I'm not wearing a mask, because it does make it a little bit muffled, especially through a microphone. It's literally just my phone, so it's not like it's some high tech. But yeah, so today I'm so excited to announce that I will be showing you how to make your very own fluffy bag. These are so popular right now, and I am obsessed. I think they're so cute. They're really, really trendy, but there's like a fluffy shoulder bag, which I am loving shoulder bags. And yeah, I'll be showing you how to make this using either the pattern from a bag or purse you already have, or I'll be giving you the measurements that you need to make this purse your own. So I hope you enjoy this video. Let's get started. Let's get started with what you're going to need. Now, you're going to need a half of a yard of fabric. You definitely don't need more than a yard unless you're planning on making multiple bags. So I just have a half yard of this fluffy brown fabric. I got it at Hobby Lobby. Then you're going to need some sort of fabric chalk that you're going to draw on the wrong side of the fabric. Fabric scissors. If you don't have fabric scissors already and you do anything dealing with cutting fabric, like if you crop your shirts often or kind of cut your pants or do anything to do with fabric, get yourself a pair of sewing or of fabric scissors. They're going to change your life, okay? You're going to make your cutting so much cleaner, so much smoother, less jagged edges. And then I have 3 types of rulers here, but you really just need one because you're going to want to draw some straight edges, and I'll go through that with you in a minute. And I also have this measuring tape that I'm going to use to measure the handle of the strap of my purse. But if you don't know for sure, you can just measure a certain amount that you think is right for you. You're going to need sewing pins, and then you will need a purse to use as a pattern for your new bag. So whatever your favorite bag is, use that. It can be bigger than mine, smaller than mine, whatever. This is actually a bag that I made during quarantine, and I actually really love it. I made it out of like an old skirt, and it's reversible with some denim, so I'm pretty proud of that. But yeah, you're gonna need a bag of sorts that you like, and then you're going to need, well, actually these are optional. There are magnetic snaps that you would hand sew into the inside of your purse, obviously, if you wanted it to close, which 100% optional. I don't have that on this bag, and it never bothers me. Like, it does kind of flop open, so if you don't like that about your bag and you want it to be closed and a little more secure, then 100% you can just hand sew a magnetic snap in, which I got these at Hobby Lobby as well, where I got my fabric. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so as you can see here, I have my fashion fabric, and I actually already drew one half of the purse just so I could get my bearings with me and make sure that I know what I'm talking about, because it's been a couple months since I made this bag. But like I said, I'm gonna go through this with you and show you how I did this using a purse I already have to create the pattern. So you don't need to know how to pattern make or anything like that. No worries, I got your back. So what you're gonna do, first things first, you heard me mention wrong side of the fabric earlier, and if you don't know what that is when it comes to sewing, like on here, it's fairly obvious what my correct side of my fabric is. It's this fluffy side, and you can see that the wrong side of the fabric is not fluffy. There's like no fur, it's just kind of the back of it. So whatever fabric you're using, you can decide what you want your wrong side of fabric to be, what you want to be on the outside. So that's honestly a design choice, up to you, but for mine, it's fairly obvious, and I want this fluffy stuff to be on the outside. So that is why I drew my pattern on the wrong side of the fabric, because this is going to be on the inside at the end of the bag, and you won't be able to see it, which, another side note, fabric chalk washes off, so if you're worried about that, you don't want that on the inside, that's a great tool to use. Like, don't use a permanent marker if you're gonna be doing this, if you want it to wash out, because permanent marker, obviously, permanent. All right, so I have my fabric all laid out like I want it to look, and with my wrong side up, this is the side that I'm gonna be drawing on, because this is the side that's going to be the inside of my purse. So just before we get started, pay attention to where you're drawing your shape onto your fabric. You want to make sure that you're leaving a long area that's long enough for your strap. So I don't want to, draw my second shape down here right in the way of where I could potentially want to create my strap for my purse. So just keep that in mind. If you have a short strap or handle for your purse, then you don't need to worry about it. But just something to keep in mind so you're not like, oh my goodness, I totally messed up. So what we're gonna do is we're going to take your purse, which I actually brought two purses with me. I wasn't sure which one I wanted to use, but I think I like the size a lot. And I actually kind of made it bigger than this size when I was drawing this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put it beside my other shape that I've already drawn up. And what I'm going to do is follow the lines of my bag. It's honestly that simple, and there you go, there's my line. So we're just right now creating kind of a rough guideline for where this purse is going to be. So I'm drawing all the lines, but I'm not going to draw the strap in yet, because that's going to be its own separate piece. Now, if you can see, my purse here kind of sways in, and I don't really want that for this bag, so I am just going to draw a straight line across roughly, or I could still follow that swoop if I wanted and fix it later with a straight edge. So there we go. I have my general shape of my bag down. It's literally a square. So, but if you have, just any bag that you want, purses are relatively simply shaped. So whatever you like, whatever is your favorite, just use that. So, all right, so we have our shape, and now this is where your ruler is going to come in. As you can see here, I have a bunch of lines, and I'm going to explain to you what all of them are. So I actually decided to make my purse a little bigger than the one that I have, because I don't want it to be the exact same as that one. I want it to be a little bit different. So I ended up making this line of mine over here 8 inches long. So I made it about an inch longer than it already was from my purse. And that's the fun thing with designing, is you're the designer. You can make it however you want to look. You can make it as big or as small as you like. You can make a huge tote bag if you wanted. The sky is the limit. So now I'm gonna make sure and go over here and do the same thing on the other side. I'm gonna make it 8 inches long. And I'm just using my ruler to square up from this bottom line. So that means I'm just making a nice 90-degree angle here, because that's gonna help me out in the long run. So now, as you can see, this line, because I just freehanded it against my purse, I'm going to just straighten it out. And you could also make it longer if you wanted. I'm going to double check that they're the same. So the bottom of my purse on the one that I've already made is about 10 and 5/16. So I'm gonna make sure that it's the same length, which it's not. So it's a good thing that I checked. So I'm going to make a little mark, and I'm gonna make it just a tad bit wider, because I do want it to be bigger. So there we go. There's my new line at 8 inches. And then I'm gonna go down here, and I'm going to connect the two and create a straight line, nice and clean. See, look how good that looks. So now I'm gonna go up here, and I know that my lines are both 8 inches long, 8 inches, 8 inches. So now I'm gonna go up here, and I'm gonna connect these two. And so we literally have a square. You're probably like, why did, that's not that complicated. And no, it's not. But now here is a very, very important part that you cannot forget. We have the purse size that we want now, but now we need to account for seam allowances. So we usually stitch on a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So what I'm gonna do is line up my ruler along this edge, and I'm going to add a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So literally just creating a line, and it's a 1/2 inch over. So now this original line that I've drawn is becoming my stitching line. So now I'm going to do that on all 3 edges. Do that on my bottom edge. Now I'm doing it on this side. And there we go. 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to create a seam allowance along the top of my bag, and because my dimensions are the same on the sides and the bottom, it doesn't matter which is the top or bottom for me, like top of my purse versus the bottom of my purse. So I'm just going to create another 1/2 inch seam allowance on there, which I originally wasn't going to do. I was originally going to leave it this raw edge on the top, but I just think it'll look better if it's folded over and stitched down, and this is what the top of my bag looks like. So this is honestly an optional part, but I will say that I think it will make the bag look more professional and not like you made it. You don't want it to be so obvious, like, yeah, they made that bag, so that's awkward. So now I have my squares, and if you don't have a bag that you like already and you're like, I don't really know what to use, you can honestly just pick measurements that you like. Like, for example, I'll tell you what my measurements are. This is 8 inches by 10. So if you just want to go with that and you don't have a purse or a bag or anything that you like, that's totally fine. You don't have to have one, but I'm just saying for people who have a bag that they already like, but they would like to make it in a different fabric or whatever. So you don't have to have a bag, but it does help. So now, before we cut these out, we're gonna go ahead and draw out our strap. So here's what mine looks like, and I really like this. I don't know if you can see. I really like these shoulder bag styles. They're very trendy right now, but I honestly think they're one of the best purses because they just fit under your arm, and it's just, you know, less hassle that way. So I really like them, and I'm gonna keep carrying them for a long time, even if they're not trendy. So if you like the length of my strap, then you can just use the same measurement as mine. So let's see. It looks like it is 18.5 inches long. So I'm gonna set that to the side, and I'm gonna take my super long ruler. If you don't have all of these supplies, the reason I do is because I'm in a sewing concentration where I was required to buy all these supplies, and I use them all the time, so it was a great investment. But just use the supplies you have in terms of like rulers and stuff, unless you know you're gonna be doing this kind of thing often, you know. Don't feel forced to go out and buy all this stuff, maybe just the fabric, or even if you have fabric lying around, you can use any kind of fabric. Like in this, I made a skirt shorter, and this is the fabric, and I literally just used the scraps and I made this bag from it. And like, for example, old denim, I use old denim on the reversible side. So just use what you have. If you're like, you know, we get it, you're a college student, we're college students, you know, you don't have to necessarily go out and buy something, but I did want to make those super cute, like fluffy bags that are really popular right now. I'm a sucker for cute things, okay? So I know the length of my strap is 18.5 inches. So here's 18.5 on the ruler. And I want to give myself plenty of space, but also when I'm using fabric, I try not to waste the fabric. So for example, instead of moving my ruler down here and starting at the end of the fabric where I have all this excess, I'm trying to use up this little space of fabric, because I could use the rest of this fabric for something else. You know, I could make another bag, you know, I could do whatever with it. So just another tip for yourself, you know, get the most of your money, don't waste your fabric or your supplies. All right, so 18.5 inches. And you could also look up, if you don't like 18.5 inches as a length, you could look up typical shoulder bag strap length online, and I'm sure you will find something. So now for the width of my strap, I'm gonna go ahead and measure this, and it's at about 1 3/4, a little bit over 1 3/4. So I'm just gonna go ahead and make it 2 inches wide over, and I'm gonna use, like I said, the length or the width of my ruler is 2 inches, so that is helpful for me. There we go. Connect our lines on both ends. And there we go. Now we're gonna create seam allowances on all the edges. So again, I'm just gonna use my ruler. I have a 1/2 inch mark on there, so that makes it really helpful for me. I can just see where that 1/2 inch is. I'm gonna do it on the top. I'm gonna do it on the bottom, everywhere. Okay, and there we go. We have all of our pattern pieces for our purse, and we are ready to cut it out. I'm gonna go ahead, and a tip for you when you're cutting out your pieces is use the full length of the scissors. This helps eliminate jagged edges that look so, you know, unprofessional, and it's just like annoying. I completely pin this down. What I wanna do is remember to leave an opening. You don't wanna sew this whole thing together because then you'd be in a pickle. You wouldn't have a bag at all. You need to remember to leave an opening, obviously, for the inside of your purse. But before that, you are going to, remember we created a 1/2 inch seam allowance at the top of the purse, and we did that for this reason. Like I said, you don't have to if you didn't want to, but I just think it's gonna make it look a little bit better. So what I'm doing is turning this towards me. So when this purse is sewn and folded right side out, you won't see this. This will be on the inside, but you will just see a clean edge, which is what I want. So I'm just going to pin this like this at a 1/2 inch. I'm turning it down 1/2 inch. So the top of this first. So now we're gonna move to the sewing machine. All right, so now I'm at the sewing machine, and I'm not gonna talk while the sewing machine is on because it's very loud and it kind of jolts the camera, but I'm just gonna quickly set it up for you so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to line up, and I do encourage you to go watch our sewing video before this if you have no experience with sewing at all. I'm assuming if you're watching this you have a little bit, but there are lines over here, and we kind of explain that in the sewing video, and I'm going to line it up on the 1/2 inch line. So there we go. And now I'm going to just sew along that line, a nice straight stitch. All right, so now that we have that little top bit sewn down, we are ready to pin our 2 pieces together. So remember to trim your threads. Remember that this is the top of your purse now, so you don't want to pin this part together, but just the sides and bottom. So what I always do is start by lining up all my corners because you want those to match, because if they don't, you're really gonna notice that when you're done, and it's just not gonna look good. And there we go. Now what I'm gonna do is stitch along my white stitch lines. So this is really great because we have a guide to follow, our little white chalk lines that we made, or our stitch lines. So let's get to it. All right, so remember, we are not stitching this part closed. This is our opening to our purse. Very, very important not to stitch it closed. Now, I'm at the corner of my bag. So I just hand cranked my needle to where those 2 chalk lines have met. Now, you wanna put your needle down into the fabric, and what you're gonna do is lift up the foot, the zipper foot, and turn your fabric with the needle there. You wanna keep the needle in the fabric because that's going to keep it where it should be. And now I've turned my fabric and 90 degrees. I've turned my fabric 90 degrees, and now this edge is on the 1/2 inch stitch line. So that's how you navigate a corner like that. Okay, so this is what my bag looks like so far. So now I'm gonna turn it inside out and see what it's looking like. Ooh, that's what it looks like so far. Cute, cute. All right, So to get this little edge to make it stand up straight, here we have my corner, right? Now I'm taking it on the side and I'm pinching it. I'm redoing this part. You can see I've already drawn a line, but I'm redoing it because my camera angle was funny. So I'm pushing all my seams to one side. I'm pinching this together. So my bottom seam and my side seam are being pinched together. So I'm going to take my ruler, measure it. I'm gonna measure down 2 inches and I'm gonna put a little mark, all right? I'm putting my mark, and then I'm gonna take my straight edge and create that line. That's my sew line, all right? All right, so now we're ready to sew these lines. So my chalk lines aren't that visible, but you're gonna use that as a guide, and that's where you're going to stitch down. So no 1/2 inch seam allowance line on this. We're just putting the needle and following it through that chalk line, all right? So I'm actually going to open up my seam allowances. I talked about pressing them to the side, but opening them up will create less bulk. So let's open the seam allowances up and we're gonna stitch them open. So let's get to it. So this is what my little sack looks like now that it's done, my little purse, and let's see how it looks turned right side out. This is actually the first time I've ever done this little trick before, so if it doesn't work for me, well, I tried. And I'll probably have to do it again. Okay. And it worked! Look at that! Oh my goodness. I'm actually so happy and kind of surprised because first time doing it, you know? So this is what the bottom of my bag looks like, and I'm actually so pleased. So there we go. Okay, now you can see it can stand up by itself. Simple little trick. It took like 2 seconds out of the way. So I'm so gonna turn it right back out because what I wanna do is trim this. This is gonna be really bulky on the inside of my purse if I don't. So I'm literally just gonna take my scissors, snip off that excess. Be sure not to trim away or to cut your stitch line because that'll really mess you up. So just trim far enough away that it's going to be good, turned right back out. Like that. Nice. Folding under, folding them wrong sides together, that seam allowance that we created, I am folding it into itself, like that. And what we're gonna do is, we're gonna do that on the other side too. Like that. So both of them are folded towards the inside of the strap. And now what we'll do is fold those two together. So we're folding the strap in half. All right, we'll do it again. Fabric shut, so beware. So I'm folding that seam allowance up, folding the other seam allowance towards the inside, folding the entire strap in half. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pin it. Now you can iron this if you want. I'm not going to because the irons are off, so personal choice. So, all right, and as you can see, as you pin it, it kind of starts to fold itself in. It kind of follows suit because this is very stiff fabric. So I'm just gonna go with it and I'm just gonna start folding under on both sides, folding together. I'm going to put the zipper foot right there, and I'm gonna put the zipper foot right on the edge of the fabric, and that's where my stitch line's gonna be because I wanna make sure that I'm catching all that seam allowance that I just pinned down, all right? So this is very, very thick, so you wanna take it slow on your machine because she's probably gonna be like, whoa, sister, help me out here, all right? So. All right, so we have this extremely funky looking strap, but all in the name of cute, right? How many times can I say cute in this video? I don't know, but a lot. So, last thing to do, well actually second to last thing to do, is attach our strap. Now you can attach it on the inside or the outside. I'm not sure where I want to attach it. The inside would be pretty cute, but the outside would also be cute. So I think I'm gonna do inside of the bag. So I'm gonna turn my bag inside out for this. So now what I'm gonna do is, remember how we made a 1/2 inch seam allowance for the end of our strap? This is why. So what you're going to want to do is fold this, because that's gonna conceal, well, I'll be honest, the right thing to do is fold this under and stitch it on like that, but I'm going to just stitch it on like this because it's so thick. When you turn it together, if this was a thinner fabric, it would be fine. Okay, talk. All right, so I just sewed on the strap and this is what it looks like. And now I'm going to hand sew in these magnetic snaps. We will probably be coming out with a hand sewing video at some point in the semester, so keep an eye out for that. But for now, I'm gonna go hand sew these with a needle and thread. All right, everybody, and this is the final product. I am so happy with how it turned out. I wasn't really sure as I was going along. I did put in those magnetic straps. I did a really rushed sewing job, hand sewing, because it's literally 7 o'clock at night and I'm really ready to go home. I'm starving to death. No, I'm really hungry, so I'm ready to go. But here it is. I'm so happy. Really simple, like really not that hard at all. So if you are a beginner at sewing, definitely try this. I think you could 100% do it. And it's just so cute. Like, such a little fun bag. These are really popular right now. Like the fuzzy bags and shoulder bags are really popular, which shoulder bags are my favorite style of purse. So I'm really excited. So if you do try it out, let us know, comment down below, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We don't post that often, but you know, we try to. We don't have in-person meetings, which is kind of often. So stay tuned for our next video and follow us on Instagram at PurdueFashionRetail.org, and everything will be linked down below. And stay safe. Bye.